Hello, everyone. This is Bob Klingmeyer with the Ohio Technology and Engineering Educators Association monthly webinar. We're proud today to have Tom Frank with us today. He's going to talk to us about a situation that he's very concerned with. He has a direct buy-in with. I'm going to turn it over to Tom right now. He can introduce us and tell us about what his topic's about. So go ahead, Tom.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Bob. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom Frank, and I'm the president of Ohio Woodworking Company in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are a third generation company, started in 1930 by my grandfather, which then passed to my father, and my brother-in-law and I bought the business from my father in 2007. So 93 years in business. And we've been able to make it work through pandemics and market crashes and everything else in that time. And that's just my tenure. So,
yeah.
One of the things that brought me to this meeting and to you folks is the need for a new generation of cabinet makers. There seems to be a disconnect between woodworkers and cabinet makers who are leaving the industry or retiring and filling that void with the next generation of woodworkers. So hopefully we can glean a little bit of information from each other and hopefully address some of these issues. It's been very difficult. I've been on boards with some local VOTACs, and it kind of came down to there was no money or any direct, how should I say, there was no avenue for cabinet makers specifically or woodworkers. Everything is geared toward the carpentry trade and those types of trades for home building. And obviously there's nothing wrong with that at all. They're great trades. It's just there's nothing specific for the cabinet making industry. And what I was told was that Columbus, the capital of the state money doesn't want to go into that funding. I don't know if that's still true, but I don't see any new programs.
I recently retired from Princeton, and I wasn't one of the last, but I was one of the few woodworking teachers that was around at the time. There still are a few out in the rural counties, true woodworking classes that are still high school based, not tech school based. Trying to get the word out to those teachers would be something that our association could possibly do for you.
Okay. Well, yeah, I did a little research before this, just trying to find out what resources are available, if not in the state of Ohio, then nationally. And there are some resources, and I don't know if it's a matter of bringing them to Ohio and to some of the localities. I know we had talked, Brian, about Ross High School down here towards Cincinnati that may still have a woodworking program. There is an association in the country, and I can't, I'll have to check my notes. I'll get it for you, but it's a Wood Career Alliance, I think is the name of it. And they are focusing on the cabinet making industry. So I think there is possibility to bring it here. But I think before that, some of the things that have to be addressed, and this is a bigger issue than just Ohio, is the amount of money that cabinet makers are paid and the amount of education and schooling that's required and the skill set that is required for people who want to get into the industry. I pulled some stats from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and also a company that is working to put people into trades. And they went across just kind of a carpenter, flooring installer, roofer, and cabinet maker. Of those four, the cabinet maker made the least amount of money. The job growth was average for them. The problem-solving skills required was the most, and the training time was the most, and yet we're paid the least. So, on a bigger front, I think that needs to be addressed. And, there are so many different kinds of cabinet shops that are doing similar work in different ways that you could have a 100-man shop and a 2-man shop. And sometimes they overlap in terms of work. So I just, I don't know how to address that, because there is such disparity in the types of cabinet makers and woodworkers that are out there. So I see that as kind of an issue. And then obviously it would be nice to bring the money up. So it was something that people who have a passion can actually make a living and raise a family doing.
Yeah. That's interesting, because you would think with less workers and the demand for cabinetry work and woodworking is still pretty high, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's work there. I get requests to bid all the time.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of cabinet companies do is we live in a pond that we make. We swim in a pond of our own making, in that we find customers that we do work with on a regular basis, and that's enough a lot of times to keep people busy.
Right.
But when you throw in things like, I want to provide healthcare for people, I want to provide them with some kind of retirement money. It may not be much, but every little bit helps, because in the woodworking industry, we're all kind of like family, including employees.
Yeah.
So we try and take care of everybody the best we can. And some shops may not offer insurance and things like that. They may get a little bit higher wage, but they're left to their own defenses.
Yeah.
The employees.
Is most of your clients, are they private homeowners, or are they more corporate people?
We focus more on the commercial side.
Okay.
The residential work we do get is usually through our commercial clients, and a host of designers and architects, and so they bring those clients to us if we're not already working with them. So I am mainly focused on the commercial side.
Yeah. Okay.
So what are some of the skill sets that, if you were bringing somebody in they graduate from high school and they come in, what skill sets would they need to have? And then what extra training do you provide on the job training for them?
Honestly, at this point, and we've talked about this internally a lot, and it's gotten to the point where if you are motivated and you have some innate mechanical skills, we'll teach you what you need to know. And I think a lot of shops may be like that we'll teach you what you need to know. We once hired a fella, and he had all this training. He was trained in another country and came to America, and he was a heck of a woodworker. But he kept saying, I have all these skills. I went to school, I do all this. And it was like, that's great, but this is what we need to have done right now. I appreciate your skills and you're really good at them, but that's not the focus of this particular job right now. And that was frustrating for him and for us. So really we would like to, again, if you're motivated and you have a skill set, we will work with you to train you what you need to know.
Yeah.
So one opportunity in that direction is the Ohio Means Jobs people have an apprentice opportunity list, and I noticed they have a list on cabinetry and what they call it, cabinet makers and bench carpenters is their category. But they have places that people could go to get apprenticeships, so that might be a place to go list things.
Sure.
I think around the state at the post-secondary level, I think Hocking College has a program.
Stop recording.
And that's a new program, I believe.
It's a brand new program,
That
right?
just started.
Yeah.
And so that there is opportunity there. I saw kind of outside of that, this Woodwork Career Alliance, there was a place down on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky, one in Louisville, and then some up northern Indiana way. But that was it in terms of a secondary, I think, education or a trade education. There are some colleges that offer woodworking programs, and they're more geared toward CNC machining, and cabinet making skills in that regard. They're using European systems in terms of 32 millimeter, the metric system, things like that. But again, if you're going to school, especially post-secondary, and then you have to come back and the job opportunities are such that, cabinet making people who own cabinet shops can't afford to pay them what they paid their schooling for. So again, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I have to cut out. I've got another appointment, like I said. Tom, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. I will look at the video and get back to you, and we'll come up with some ideas and tell you what we thought about.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
So, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they have they have a lot of good resources, but again, it's if nobody knows we're out there,
Right.
it's hard for them to find us. I've worked with some local VOTEC schools, and the teacher really was just trying to get, and these were 18 plus students, so they'd either finished high school or had a GED, and they're looking to get into a career in any trade. And he was really trying, and I would bring the students around and kind of take a couple hours and show them exactly what we did in our shop. And sometimes you'd see a flicker of light, and sometimes they were there because they had to be, and that's fine. I understand that, it's not going to be for everybody. It's just, how do we glamorize the industry? I think it's, it can be a good skill. It's a great career. And, I think a lot of people do enjoy it. And I think a lot of people came to that conclusion, maybe during COVID or post-COVID, that, maybe a desk job wasn't for them. But, I think for a lot of people, it would be a drastic pay cut to come and work in a cabinet shop.
Yeah.
Is it a 9 to 5 job, or is it overtime, things like that?
At my shop?
Yes.
Our hours, we work 6 to 2:30, or
Okay.
in the shop they do, and it's 40 hours a week. There is some overtime. We don't like to work overtime, but we do when we have to get the jobs out. So it's a part of it. And I think that's most trades. And I think people understand that. But again, it's not hard work. It's smart work. And, we try and we try and teach efficiency to the guys if they don't know it already. And a lot of them do, because they're getting old. I have an aging workforce. The kid is in his 40s. So we need to find some new people, but it's every day is a lesson or a chance to learn against yourself in many ways, because if you're paying attention and doing what you're doing, it's something as easy as moving the stack of wood closer to you, so that you only have to take one step to work on a piece and then put it somewhere else. And it's just, we try and teach those efficiencies to make everybody's day go quicker and more efficiently, and move on to the next piece of the project. And there we have a host of CNC equipment, CNC routers, and panel saws and edge banders, and a lot of the modern equipment. And we also have table saws and jointers and planers and sanders and all the accompaniment of hand tools. So again, that skill set is built up over time. And it may be that, you know, a guy who is at the bench may need to run the edge bander one day because, you know, somebody who usually runs it is doing something else. So we try and really cross-train guys on a lot of the different machinery. It makes it easier for us. And I know every shop's different, but it has worked well for us.
Do any other shops have female employees?
I can't speak to any of the other shops. We do not currently. Not that we wouldn't, if somebody had the skills, you know, that's great. You don't have to lift too much. We have, you do have to lift some, and we have pneumatic tables that raise and lower that we just purchased recently. I don't know why we didn't purchase it either. These are the best things in the world. They are back savers. But, you know, I think there's opportunities also for, you know, people who are coming out of prison systems. And, you know, I know that there's a place in Cincinnati that works to train people to just get basic skills and are ready to get on with their lives and start a new track. We haven't looked at the military, I think, although that is also an option. So I think there are some avenues, and we've even gone to work with an HR company to try and find us employees, and said, you know, you get all the, you get all the resumes in, kind of give them a scan. Here are our parameters. When you find resumes that have those parameters, you send them to me, and then we'll look at them from there. And we did find one person that way, but it took a while. And the only reason that person was looking for us is because they were working in a trade show exhibit shop, and with COVID, they basically shut down immediately. So it was by that luck that we found him, and he's turned out to be a good worker too. So,
seeing the grand looking room that you're in, do you have? I guess, is there a separation between the finishing and the the construction part of jobs?
Yeah, finishers that's a whole nother animal. And they are a dying breed as well. I don't know of many people getting into the finish industry as well. We do not have finishers on staff. We sub out our finishing because a lot of the work that we do are panel products, melamines, sheet boards, white melamine, particle board, MDF, plastic laminate, solid surface. And so we do not have a need for a full-time finisher. Mm-hmm. And we made a conscious decision to sub our work out. And the person we went with has been great for us, but now he is retiring, and we are working with several other people right now to pick up that slack when we do have it, because we don't always have finishing. So, and that's a tough thing to address as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if a high school student were to come in, what's kind of a average salary range that, I mean, I know you said that they were paid the least out of all of the trades that you mentioned, but what could they expect as a range?
Starting out, I mean, they'd probably start $15 an hour until we got a handle on, if they had skills or again, if they have the motivation and the mindset and the skill set, they could work up quickly. But, there has to be, we'll make an investment, but we have to see something from them as well.
Yep. Is there a big turnover in your field, or?
Again, I can't speak to other shops. Anecdotally, when 2008 hit, a lot of shops did close. There was a lot of attrition. I think a lot of shop owners who are of a certain age said, I have no debt. I don't want to go through this anymore. And they just closed the doors. And the people that they had to go elsewhere. if they could find work. And it was tough on all of us. We had to let people go, and that wasn't easy. And I think a lot of us all struggled. And, the people that got let go either found jobs or may have retired. And when things started to pick back up, they never came back. And a lot of shops got used to doing more with less. And so we continued that way. And now COVID hits. And again, shops had closed down. People may not have been working. And again, there's more attrition of people, and people are getting older and not getting back in the trades or going back to work. And I don't know if young people know, again, that this is an option.
So I don't know if there are woodworking trade shows that go on, or
There are, and I think there are trade associations, but obviously, if they, if they reach out to folks like you, or if there's a disconnect that we have to fix.
and I know you mentioned the vocational schools, the trade schools. I worked for Butler Tech for a few years, and thinking to their construction program, I believe it was more on the level of true home construction. I'm not sure how much finished carpentry they even taught. It was more of the framing and things like that.
I could even see trim carpenters may have some avenues in there. But yeah, the cabinet making, I haven't seen it. It's unfortunate, but I would love to find out if there is a way to, and I don't know if it's a marketing issue, to get kids interested in what we do. And I'd be interested to hear what you guys are doing on that front, or who you are coming in contact with besides folks like me, or.
Really getting the word out that this is a career possibility that you don't need, you don't need some advanced degree for. You just need willingness and good work habits anyways.
Yeah.
So I think getting that information out is something we can do through our newsletter. There are a smattering of high schools, as Brian mentioned earlier. Butler High School up north of Dayton had a good program, but that teacher's retired, so I'm not sure what happened after he retired.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's one up in the more central part of the state.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that I might be the youngest guy in the room right now. And I'm not exactly young either. So I don't know, it's always like we need some kind of young spokesperson to get on the social medias and turn on the Google machine and find where these folks are. I think there is opportunity for all of us to learn and to market it a little bit better. I don't know if it's done on an individual basis, or if there's some way that we can kind of make some marketing push to find those people and let them know that we're out there. I spoke with the owner of a kind of a manufacturing in a different industry. And he said he didn't have problems because the people who were coming were so motivated to do the work every day. And if we can find how to do that, and let's face it, it's not the most glamorous thing. And yes, it's indoors, but I don't have air conditioning. It's a little hot in the summer and a little cool in the winter, but I'm not getting rained on. And there are days when there you do the same thing over and over and over until that job's done. But then you get to build some really amazing pieces of either furniture or cabinetry, and it does change from time to time, and it can be a really exciting job. And the reason I stayed in, I grew up in the business, and I couldn't wait to get out for a long time, until I realized that I missed working with my hands and seeing something go from raw material to a finished piece that when you delivered it or it left your dock door, someone was really, really excited to get it and see it. And that means a lot. That means we did something right and somebody really appreciated our work and we solved their problem. And so we've always taken the attitude that we are always solving problems for people. The cabinet making is, I don't want to say secondary, but our job is to go in and find out what the problem is and solve it for our clients. And the more we do up front, the easier the job is in the shop. And we still get that attaboy of a smile or a thank you.
Yeah. The people who definitely understand that and are already doing it are sort of the hobbyist crowd. And that might be a place to tap into, because I mean, they have different woodworking shows. So there's wood crafters or woodcraft here in Columbus, but then there's also a national show that goes around to different cities and stops in Columbus once a year. The people who show up to that would be the people most likely, I think, if you had a flyer or something that said, we're looking for you, basically. And here's the opportunities.
But I don't know if hobbyists really want that full-time work.
Right. And most don't. But I think you're more likely to find a few there than some other places.
There may be.
As you mentioned, though, you do have the problem where, like, if you're starting at $15 an hour, well, that's what McDonald's starts at here.
Sure.
You got a way better job than a McDonald's. But then you can also look at McDonald's. If you start at McDonald's, you could work your way up to management there. So that isn't necessarily a horrible career path, but it's not one that I'd want for sure.
No, but for some people that may be. But to get into this industry, obviously there has to be knowledge that there is some advancement. But not everybody can be a foreman. And a lot of shops are small. There are 4 people on my shop floor. It's not a lot, but we produce a lot of work and it gets sent all over the country. So along with work that's done here in town, right. I don't know how to address that other than something in the industry needs to change. And I hope it's not that there aren't enough cabinet shops to fill all the orders that need to be met, that we have to raise our prices that way. Right. I would hope that, there would just be a natural rise in pay because we're good at what we do. And this is not a knock against other trades, but I can't order materials to a job site and put it all together there. We are making one-of-a-kind pieces in many aspects that can only be done after we find all the drawings and get all the details done, and then order all the material, make sure the job site is the way it's supposed to be, and then we can turn on a machine and then build it and hope nothing changed in that time, and then send it out, make sure it fits. So, we're the last guys in, but we have to be careful because either somebody's got to plumb in it, put electric in it, put a top on it. There's so many things that are affected by the time we get there. So, that I think it deserves a little bit higher pay, and I think it's earned as well.
I'm trying to think. There's somebody at like Butler Tech. I don't know if you with them at all, and I can't remember exactly. They work with businesses, trying to put businesses in touch with their students and their staff. I can't remember the woman's name. But it's people like that that might be able to help at the career tech schools. I'll remember it here sometime, and I've got your email still, and I can get with you on that. But
and you know, Brian, I'll link, or I'll send you all of the links that I did find. There are schools across the country that are doing some of this, and I think it is possible to bring it here. There are, you know, I think state of Ohio, there are going to be so many jobs in manufacturing, and it, you know, a lot of it's going to be the chip factory and the battery factory that Honda's putting in. There's a lot of work coming here, and I think even the state of Ohio said that there just aren't enough workers. So it's not just the cabinet makers, but if we can address a lot of that, because a lot of new buildings always means there's going to be cabinets there. And so there is opportunity. And I think that, you know, it's a matter of awareness, and then maybe linking up some of these national trade associations with some local schools if they were interested. And obviously finding people who have the passion to teach.
yeah,
You know, wasn't it interesting? Last week we had a panel on it, and there was some folks from Intel there, and when they were talking about their future workforce, they were saying, you know, overall it was going to be like 70%, you know, technician level folks, and you know, hands-on doers of stuff. So, you know, so you know, that's going to help with the big awakening also. You know, these skill level jobs are important, and there's definitely a lot of opportunities there.
And I mean, there are a lot of opportunities. And I think that, you know, our industry, as well as a lot of others, are changing because of technology. I'm curious to see how artificial intelligence will play into the cabinet making industry, but just automation as well. And automation is great, but for a lot of the things, and I'll speak for our shop, a lot of things that we do, there still has to be a thinking body behind the automation to know what's going on, as opposed to just pushing a button and seeing something done by a machine,
right,
and then move on to the next piece, and then the next piece. It is a trade where a skill set of the mind is still very necessary and wanted. It really is, because the critical thinking skills, again, the amount of learning that, you know, you have to do, and the hand skills, and to just, you know, go process from, again, a pile of materials to a finished good. It may not touch every worker's hands, but at some point, at some job, they may go through every part of that process. So it is really important to have people who have skills and who can think through not only the hand skills, but those machine skills and the computer skills. So it really is making a well-rounded individual who could take their skills and walk away from any shop and go get a job somewhere else. And I think that's what's needed. It's not, you know, keeping people chained to one job, especially if they have skills and motivation. If they leave and go to another shop, that's great. I wish you well. That you get what you're looking for. And I hope that the next person finds something that they desire in our shop and would want to stay. So it really is about making a skilled workforce and people who really believe in what they do, believe in the product they turn out, and want to see the best for themselves, their shop, and you know, for everyone around them. not to get too philosophical here, but I think it really is important for people to know that, they have skills and that they can share those skills and they can use those skills and it means something.
I'm kind of curious in your situation, for instance, with a CNC, does everybody learn how to get from drawings to the machine, or is somebody taking care of that? Then somebody at the machine needs to worry about how to get the wood mounted so that it's in the same place and all that kind of stuff.
It's actually it's a multi-person, multifaceted process. It starts in the office. It starts with people who draw. They'll make, working shop drawings. And a lot of times for the CNC machine, depending on what it is, they can put it on an AutoCAD file and put it on a thumb drive and bring it up. And so at that point, a person would put those drawings into the machinery. The machinery would read the AutoCAD drawing and program the machine, but then at that point, it would have to be tweaked a little bit. And that's where the machine operator has to have the skills to know what the machine does, what kind of material it is, how they may need to run the material on what kind of tooling, how fast, how slow, how many passes to make. And again, that goes back to learning the material, learning how that machine works. And so again, it's multifaceted.
Kind of also curious on other changes over my time in dealing with cabinetry kinds of things. So joinery, seems like a lot of joinery has moved towards like pocket screws and that kind of stuff, at least in the non-visible parts.
Yeah, no, and it's in that regard, the industry has changed. It's not, just dados and rabbits and traditional woodworking. A lot of plastics are involved now. In the joinery that you don't see, it's used and snapped together and things just disappear. And a lot of that is from a lot of guys looking at different material and saying, hey, how can we put this together differently? And they'll patent a piece of plastic and a way to make it work for joinery. And so kind of the IKEA-ization of woodworking. And I've got IKEA in my house, so I'm not poo-pooing IKEA at all. And you can put it together with a hex key and no written instructions. So that's not a bad thing. But there is a lot. Woodworking is still basically the same. There are changes. The CNC machinery, it hasn't changed in a while. It's gotten faster. We're now seeing 5-axis machines become more in play with certain shops. And so the automation is happening, and I welcome it. I understand it. It's how we have to move forward. But you're always going to have a knowledgeable skill set, a knowledgeable worker who knows what to do with those machines. So it's not a traditional woodworker that just ran a table saw, a joiner, and a planer and a shaper. They really do have to know more. For our industry, learning how to work with plastic laminate is huge. And I don't know if there are schools specifically around Ohio that just teach that. Plastic laminate is big for Formica, Wilson Art. In the commercial space, it really is still a large part of what we do. You don't see it so much residentially, but some. But laminate making skills are huge. And again, once you learn them, you can do a lot. Laminate is an amazing material. So still to this day, it's not, barfy gross Formica. I want a granite countertop, not Formica. Well, that's great, but a lot of things still get Formica on them. So it's my plug for laminate. So there are, again, it's a skill set that, could be taught. Does it need to be taught in schools? Not necessarily. Again, it's more, do you have a skill set and you're motivated. I keep coming back to that. I think that more and more, especially if the, schools don't want to invest in, cabinet making. I hope that they would, and that, the right teachers come forward and can teach it, and the right school system sees the benefit of it for their young people, that, it is a good trade. But I think, we suffer from a marketing issue to some extent.
Yeah.
I know there's a school, I don't know if it's still around because this was a long time ago. I used to work for a trade show company here in town that we would design and build trade show booths.
Okay.
And to be able to sell their solid surfacing, I was sent to a school, and I don't remember if it was here in Cincinnati or up in Columbus, to learn how to work with their solid surface material. I don't know if that school still exists. We had to go to that school so that we could sell their product
Okay.
to our clients. So that might be a school around. I don't know if that's still around.
I know that in the solid surface industry, there is still training, and it may be brand specific, like you did. We did that as well, where I was probably in my 20s when I did that.
Yeah. So
And now, we still fabricate solid surface, and we teach the guys in-house. And it's another skill set. It's not woodworking in any way. It's Corian and the like. So
yeah. But I was wondering if that school was around, that people were I don't know if people just go to that school though, just on their own, or if they go there because, like you had to learn how to use their product. And I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that it would be that you're working for someone, and either they just want to bring you up to speed very quickly, so they're going to send you to that school because they need it done, and they need somebody. A lot of countertop shops, I'll say granite, some of them have solid surface divisions, and they'll again, I think, train in-house, or they're big enough that they bring the manufacturers in to teach it. So, and again, as a small shop, you got to get kind of scrappy and feisty and make your own way a lot of times. But again, I think there's so many different aspects of it, and I think if we could get the school or the state, the schools or the state, to see the benefit, that we could make some changes. And I'm not really sure what that is going to take.
On the training side, there's a number of these how to do it TV shows. I watch a fair amount of them, and they always have video clips on various processes and techniques and such. Have you found any of that kind of resources useful in your training or filling in some blank spots in somebody's background?
I haven't. I've often thought of making, our own video series in-house to train, but that resource time is very, very tricky. So, I can fix my dryer because of YouTube. YouTube can be an amazing tool like anything else. So if it was something that had some authority behind it, but that, hey, this is a good way, or if sometimes it comes down to people like the video or the person doing it, or they actually learned how to do something and they said, hey, I learned how to do this. So videos are a possibility for sure. A Khan Academy of Woodworking.
Yeah.
I don't see why it wouldn't be possible. And maybe that is the way to go. I think a lot of schooling is going online, at the high school and college level. I know my daughter at OSU has had to take classes and tests online from her dorm room. So it is possible. Of course, I don't know if you want to make sawdust in a dorm room, but but even if it was the school provided a shop, or they went somewhere where there were woodworking tools, and you didn't necessarily have to be in the same cities, and you had people in the shop who could help teach it, but maybe it's a video course and there are occasionally live lessons. And then from there, the schooling goes to the hands-on under supervision, and we learn that way. I mean, that might be a great avenue that I think would address a lot of the manpower to teach. If one person or a series of people can put out some really great instructional videos, and then have it catered to students with, again, the right machinery and somebody that's there with them to kind of take that knowledge and pass it on from the video, that might be a really good option.
Sadly, one of the problems I've noticed over the years in schools is making sawdust is something they don't want because it's something to deal with. I guess these days it's a hazardous material of some degree. So that's a problem. And then there's the safety issues, which we've dealt with for years. We know how to deal with that. So I don't know why it's a problem, but for some it is. I don't know if liability, school liability insurers chime in and say, hey, you need to get rid of this because it's hard to get them these days.
And that, I don't know, that is something that may need to be addressed. I don't know the answer there. I wish that if trade schools are working with electricity, or
right, same problems, but
or is that okay? Now you're going to go on your co-op and you're going to go out in the field, and if you zap yourself out there, well,
yeah. So less of a problem in trade schools as with the general high schools, where the wood shops that I know of are or have been in the past, but then some districts have seemed to want to cut them out. So
is it, and again, it sounds like some of you have taught in those arenas. Is it that there's no one coming up behind you, or what? There's no one interested in teaching, aside from the insurance, but honestly, is there, these programs are going away. Why? Is it truly because the schools don't want to deal with it, or it was the push for everyone to go to university? I don't know.
When they designed the new Princeton High School, at one time we had 8 back in the day industrial arts teachers at the old high school, and 2, I believe, at the middle school. And eventually they built a new school and didn't put in any shops, even though there were 4 of us at the time. There are no shop rooms, no nothing. One thing they did was take away the teacher's lounge and make that into more of a maker space, if you will. They did put a lathe, or like a CNC, a laser, maybe a small tabletop CNC mill, things like that. But it's just the size of a faculty the eating. So it's not a very big room. There's not much equipment. It can only hold about 14 students. So just designing new buildings without having the shop. And we were there, we were trying to tell them, we'll help you design it. And they didn't want it.
Yeah. I am seeing more, my son's high school has a maker space in it, and they gear toward the 3D printing, the lasering, and I get it. I understand. Those are new technologies coming down the pike, but it's marrying those with these older technologies that still aren't going to go away.
Mhm.
We have a laser here in our facility, and we have a 3D printer. The laser we bought kind of as a toy just to figure out how to use it. And when COVID hit, we ended up making plexiglass shields for our customers. And to this day, we still do for some of them. And it turned into a profit center for us, which we never expected. So, you just never know. And so what you see is we'll make cabinetry, and then what gets designed into it is acrylic and plexiglass. So it's a marriage of these different materials and machinery, and it works. So there is opportunity to, again, learn more skill sets.
And that's when I retired from Ross, the teacher who came over bought a laser, big one, not just a little tabletop one, but one that will cut through some pretty hefty materials, and also just cut into materials. So put designs on it. So they started a manufacturing class this year, and having no metalworking manufacturing equipment, I just kind of made it into a woodworking projects with that teacher, but we married that laser with a bunch of the projects that I had, and students were taking a very simple, it was a game just to teach them how to use the equipment and do some measuring. It was a penny board where they have pegs in it just to try to stop. It was like, that's the soccer field. But then they took designs that they found online or created, burn that into the wood before they put all their stuff in. So they married the two together, and now they're doing a lot of woodworking projects with the laser, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's almost it's a gateway tool to get them to the bigger machines. If you like cutting out pieces of wood on a laser, just think what you could do with a full table saw and a complement of other machines, and try to make what you did on the laser with solid wood or with particle board or MDF in a larger size. So again,
well, that's what they're doing. They're marrying the table saw. They'll cut the flat stuff out of the table saw first, stick it on the laser, and then finish the product with that.
Yeah.
So they don't use the laser to cut the wood. They use it to engrave into the wood.
So a lot of what I'm hearing is that we need to do a better job I need to do a better job as a cabinet maker to market what I do. I don't get out much. I'm in sawdust. So it's getting out and letting people know that this is an option for them. And again, I'll go back to bringing students through. They didn't know what I was doing, had no idea. And I guess when you do something for a long time, you get used to it, and you forget that other people don't know what the heck you're doing. So it's a matter of putting the word out that this is an option for people who can, have a nice career and learn some skills that no one can ever take them away from them. Once they've got them, they're theirs for life. They can take them with them. They can do what they want with them, create some amazing things. So I think it, again, goes back to, it might be a marketing issue one.
And part of that at our level is letting parents know that, because parents, for 100 years have all been into this. So I want my student to go to college. Well, there's lots of other jobs out there that are good careers, but don't need college.
Yeah. And I think you are correct in that regard. And that pendulum is starting to swing back toward the trades. Even if it's a 2-year technical degree, it's, it's getting them to look at hand skills and trades and thinking skills too. They really are. My dad taught me when I was young that first you learn how to think and then you learn a trade. So you have to have those critical thinking skills, and marry those with your hand skills, and you can create some pretty amazing things.
Well, I can get your name and information out to Butler Tech, but specifically to Ross. They've got an ag program there and the engineering program that has the manufacturing, and possibly get some tours set up through, just again, trying to get kids to go, oh, I can, I like working with this. I like building these things. Oh, so now here's something I could do if I don't want to go to college. I can go into this business, and they're looking for people.
So does the group focus on high schools, or are they looking for, post-secondary? What is the main focus?
Actually, K-12, yeah.
Oh, so K-12. Okay.
Yeah.
So is it a matter then of like you said, Paul, it's a matter of letting the parents know, and then where to from there, I guess, is my question. If the high school doesn't offer it, what are the next steps that you guys see?
And part of that in the local frame is, talking to your school district or other school districts nearby, and, why aren't you offering this? We have these needs, which might rouse some interest there, and letting people know just in general. And so, just kind of looking for opportunities to let people know. Unfortunately, over time, things have changed. Like our state used to be divided into regions, and there was a Southwest region, which Brian was involved with, and they'd have a show every year of people doing these kinds of things. And that was a great chance to go talk to students and that kind of thing. But it's not anymore.
Gotcha. So it sounds almost as if, again, that marketing problem is there, maybe there's a way to talk to school systems and say, hey, we just want to present an opportunity for kids to learn about this trade, something along those lines. Do you see that as a viable option?
It's an option. Whether or not the school's going to listen, I don't know.
Sure. It might be knocking on a lot of doors, is what I'm hearing. And, and again, it sounds like a plan to be put into place to A, market, B, teach if a school doesn't have the resources and don't want to expend those resources, but, give students an option that they may not know about. I know here in town, there, at least before COVID, there was a makerspace for anyone to use in Sharonville, Ohio. And I don't know if it's still open, but they had, you could learn how to weld, how to do woodworking, how to use the laser, 3D print. They had all these machines, and it was almost subscription based, where you paid so much and you had to pass some safety proficiency levels before you could use the machinery, but it was there. And so that might be an option as well.
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead, Brian.
I know that makerspace bought all my woodworking equipment from all my wood. They bought all the wood that we hadn't used. They bought our planer, our shaper. I mean, they bought everything.
Yeah.
A lot.
And you know, maybe it is developed again, maybe it's developing a curriculum for some kind of online learning, you know, and that only goes so far. Obviously, you have to have some hands-on tools and make some sawdust. So it sounds like kind of a multi-phase how to get from zero to woodworking in so many steps in a day and age where people are watching YouTube but don't have access to the machinery per se.
Yep. And that place is still open. It's called the Manufactory.
Yep.
It's,
yep. That's it.
Yeah. It's over off of Mostella Road.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They were just down the road from us at the old Princeton High School.
Okay.
But yeah. I know exactly what you were talking about. You go there and you get trained, and I believe it's all the same still.
Yeah. And again, you have to pass some basic proficiency tests so that you can use the equipment.
Right.
So,
They called both myself and another friend who taught at Princeton to go over there and be some of their trainers.
Yeah, again, Columbus has a couple of those, one really huge one downtown. And that's kind of a place, again, to sort of try and get the word out, because there's people at least interested in doing things with their hands there.
sure.
And I'm not sure how much there's some young people there. I'm not sure how many high school like type people are there, but there's probably some. And again, that's a place where you're more likely to find people that might be interested in things. And then similarly in Columbus, there's a woodcraft store, and they're running classes all the time for things. And again, people of all ages are coming there and learning stuff. And so that might be people to reach out to at least and say, hey, have you thought about this as a career? Again, most of them, no, they want to do it as a hobby, but
Sure.
there'll be a few.
Yeah. And you're right. There may be a few. And if you get a couple, that's, you know, it doesn't take much. But yeah, I think there are opportunities. What is the state's stance on funding for things like this? Does anybody know?
We're more our organization is more the general space. So the
Okay.
vocational space does have funding from the federal and state level. And I'm not sure how they pick which careers. I mean, at a given technical school, their administrators, I don't know if they have a board or not, are making choices about what careers in their area they're going to go with. I don't know if any of them have ever done a great job of figuring that out ahead of time, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a lobbying effort as well with Columbus, or if there are representatives who have a pet project in the education field or anything like that, especially with so much industry landing here in Ohio.
right. I think that tied with, as you were saying, okay, we're building all these new buildings for these plants. They all need cabinets, and it's part of this whole big thing where the money is spreading out from Intel and from Honda's battery plant and stuff like that. Local people need to get hired to do all these things. They're not hired by Intel, but they've got to make the cabinets that Intel is going to buy.
Yeah,
let them know that.
And fill the stores up that are popping up around these factories, and fill the homes that are going up around these factories, because these
Right.
people are either in the state or coming into the state to work specifically for these companies. So that rising tide will lift a lot of boats.
Yep.
And so, that might be a rallying cry as well for why something may need some funding, so that we can keep up with these up and coming businesses that will, change lives and change the landscape of Ohio.
Sure.
Yeah, I was wondering about the point of possibly having folks in the shops do cameo appearances on a lot of these woodworking programs. And I know Bowling Green produces, do you recall, Paul, what is the American Workshop or something? But up in the Lima areas where the fellow has his, his shop and has a Saturday morning program produced by BG. And they're always building furniture and pieces and like that sort of stuff. I think of something where with some of these programs that have a cameo shot of, okay, here you're seeing then the one person, one build thing, but then, there is then the industry or the craftsmanship over in the cabinetry shops where, where we're doing a similar thing, and this is the nature of our process for the building. But again, trying to make that connection between the interested person, the casual viewer, and oh, by the way, there is a potential of a career field within this.
I think HGTV did a good job of highlighting tradespeople.
Yeah.
No joking. I think they really did to highlight, people doing all kinds of things that maybe people didn't know that they could do themselves, or to meet the people behind the things that they were purchasing, and that it is still in many ways local. And so that might, again, if you can highlight a shop in a way that gets to people, or even it's something that's donated to X, Y, or Z to help people in distress, or some kind of thing where the greater good and helping folks, and here's how we do this, and these are opportunities for people.
Yeah, because like that, this old house program always has the special features where they've had some custom piece built, and then they go to the shop, and the fellow's talking about all the rigmarole that they went through in the design and the production of this archway or mantelpiece or other kind of specialty fitting piece. So you're getting a sense of, okay, what's the techniques, the process, the materials that's used by the cabinetry shop.
Yeah, and again, you're gonna hook a certain subset of people that would take an interest in that kind of work, and that's we're not for everybody, but for the right person who likes to work with their hands and create things, it's great. It could have been woodworking, it could have been clay, could have been metalworking.
Yeah.
The right people will find us if they know where to find us, I think.
Well, speaking of those right people, also comes into the local school board member, or the member of the legislation, or something like that, who, where you have an opportunity to get them eyeball to eyeball, and get them to understand, there is a viable need here, and this is the process, and then they working through their channels or through the school board, champion the parallel opportunities for kids.
Yeah.
I know I found the information. I think I was looking for through Butler Tech. They've got it's called Workforce Services, and the assistant superintendent of Workforce Services used to be an assistant principal of mine at Princeton. She's a good friend, Marnie Durham. Ann Rush is a coordinator with them, and then Vicki Hoppy, she used to be a secretary at Princeton, is now the secretary for Workforce Services. All really good people there that if you ever wanted to have a meeting, and they also, where was it here? There was one more. Where was it here? Because they had the government person here, Laura Sage, Director of Business and Governmental Relations. They meet often with people in Columbus, and having a meeting with them to show them what your needs are would help them when they go to Columbus with these finance meetings. And do Paul or Dick, do you remember what the money is that comes from the federal government to go to the tech schools?
That's Perkins.
Perkins money, yeah. So they go up to Columbus a lot and try to talk and get more Perkins money. And I know that's on John Graft is the superintendent at Butler Tech. He's really into all this also. So if there's ever a time that you want to get with them, and if I can help, I'd be happy to go along with you and just talk about what your needs are and what Butler Tech can do, and then kind of put you guys together.
Sure.
That's something that I would be happy to do with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have you ever worked with any of the MEPs for Ohio, the manufacturing extension partnerships? They're kind of the liaison between public and private. Down here, it's TechSolve, I think. In the Northeast, it's somebody else, but down here, it's TechSolve.
I think I did a robotic program, like hydraulics robot program through the NAP.
Okay. Yeah. Again, they work to bring jobs to the state. To find that grant money or state or federal money to help teach and bring on new employees for businesses, across the board, not just, obviously not woodworking, but larger companies, aerospace, auto, you name it. So
the people I worked with, it's been a long time ago, were the trade unions that were right there in Sharonville. I mean, their shop was, their school for the union people was just down the street from Princeton High School. So
okay,
working with them, that's kind of who I dealt with while I was at Princeton, and then had partnerships with General Mills and GE jet engines, things like that. So
all of the vocational school programs in their operation kind of react to show their alignment with the approved state vocational division curriculum framework, and all of the different trades and subgroups and all have advisory committees that meet every so many years for the revision of that. I had served on kind of like a manufacturing one at one point, where there were industry reps involved with that group, and you basically march through the curriculum guide for determine which the experience that the kids are offering or expected to do are realistic or legitimate ones with the state of that that current such as cabinetry or fine woodworking. So again, that would be another opportunity for yourself or a parallel trade association group to make some input.
Sure.
To the guidelines for approved training programs. So at least
every vocational program also, whether it's at the school or in a high school. So I was a teacher at a high school, but I worked for Butler Tech. We had advisory council meetings. So twice a year, we had to have people in industry come to our school and meet. So that's available. I know in Hamilton County through all the Oak schools, Butler County, it's through Butler Tech and all the high schools. There's every high school in Butler County has a Butler Tech campus on at their high school. All of those people have advisory council meetings twice a year. So those are avenues to look at, to say, hey, here's our needs, and what are you teaching? Does what you're teaching follow through with our needs? Because they all ask the question, what do you need in industry? You know, what is it we should be doing to help support you once the student leaves here? That was our number one question we asked every year to every advisory council board member.
Yeah, and that could also include all of the attitude and work behaviors and work process skills and work thinking that you had described, as well as the, you know, technical skills.
It's almost a liberal arts degree for the trades.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be a thinker. You have to have the hand skills. You can't have one without the other. You know, we don't want a state full of button pushers. We have to have thinking, you know, thinking individuals who, again, I think have a passion for what they're doing and can problem solve and can make a living at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's there. I think there are ways to talk to the high school districts, but if the state, you know, is dictating the monies and where they go, that's an uphill battle. It may be, you know, career guidance counselors who find those people who, you know, maybe have expressed an interest in knowing that you folks are out there to contact, and then you contact us. I'm just trying to think of ways that, you know, there are those kids are out there.
Mm-hmm.
I know at our school, people would send in information to our guidance counselors, and specifically myself and our ag teacher, if they were more shop related careers, would send them down the information to us. They would open up the whole school, but then specifically I would tell my juniors and seniors and say, here's opportunities, you know, after you graduate this year or next year, if you're looking, you can go talk to these people. They have job openings right now. But the counselors would get that information to the correct people and then open it up to everybody in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, and I don't know if the message is also, you can start a career out of high school and have a 4-year jump on everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's money that is well spent or not well spent going into a career and being able to afford a house or a car or start a family and not be saddled with debt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of avenues, I think, to look at it and to market it to folks.
What would a carpenter, or I'm sorry, a woodworker or a cabinet maker expect to make, you know, after being into it for a while? Did you already talk about that?
We talked about it a little bit more starting out. And again, it's, I would say, around the $15 range to start out, which you can make at a fast food restaurant nowadays.
Yeah.
But, you know, commensurate on skill sets, you could move up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Again, the issue in the industry is that, and I don't remember if you were here for this part or not, Bob, but you know, there's a lot of other trades that require less skill and less thinking. And
Right. Yeah. You at the beginning. Yeah.
So, you know, those are things that need to be addressed. I'm not sure how you address that. You know,
Yeah.
you know, there's always going to be somebody who will bid a lower number, but the lower number is not always the best number.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, nice. Another source of folks that might have some parallel skills or people who could be pirated would be like with all the big box stores. For all the products, they now have installers. So you can buy the cabinetry or the this or that needs to be installed, and oh, by the way, we have some contract folks that are available to come to your house and do the installation, whether that would be a way of tapping into some hidden workforce that you could then kind of adapt and train to to your needs.
Yeah. And it's interesting. One of the things is I don't have installers in house. I sub that out because my guys do best in the shop, and so it's finding even carpenters. Sometimes we'll ask that the general contractor, if there is a general contractor, that they provide either a carpenter from in their own business or hire that out. And so it's making connections with people and having more than one person to work with in terms of installation. And I don't, hopefully Lowe's and Home Depot wouldn't see that as poaching. Ask how their folks are doing. I don't know. One is a lonely number in business.
Yeah.
Good record, though. Has anybody approached or thought about the Amish? I don't know. Everybody always thinks, okay, woodworking, cabinetry. You want somebody really good, get the Amish to do it. At least that's the thought around here. So has anybody ever thought about tapping that resource and seeing if there's people that would want to branch out, or are they more interested in just doing their own thing? How's that come out?
I think the Amish stay in the Amish communities.
Yeah.
They in many instances they have nicer machinery than I do. No joke, and more power to them.
Okay.
And they produce good work, and I think it would be hard to draw somebody out of there.
Yeah. Okay. Just turning over every stone.
Oh yeah. Bob, we had discussed earlier, to some extent, it may be a marketing issue, that people don't know that guys like me are out there.
Yeah.
And how do we solve that issue? How do we get folks to learn about us? And as it was mentioned earlier, a lot of people are watching HGTV and these home shows.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if we could do anything like it, but like I was thinking, if we were back at the Ohio State Fair, wouldn't it be great to bring some of his work out and his people out and to showcase that? Because we get a lot of homeschool people, we get a lot of just people interested in that kind of stuff. That they show up and look at that woodworking and the stuff that the kids are turning out. I think that would be very eye-catching for some people, and we might get some people out of that. But I don't know how we do that now that we're no longer with the Ohio State Fair. You guys have
it sounds like your organization is used to working with school districts. Maybe there's a way to even on something like this showcase the work that companies are doing, and as a way to say to students, here's another opportunity that you may not have known.
Yeah.
We're working with the guidance counselors.
Yeah. I mean, the maker fairs that are popping up might be a place to get some people, because they like working with their hands already. That's why they're into the fairs. So that might be a place to, I don't know, at least make some connections or networks or something. I don't know.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would see with our newsletter that would be the ability to or have a frequently appearing kind of a small clip that might involve a photo of an operation or a job or something like that that you're doing with some talking about the again making the translation between somebody's school experience and again showing, oh gee, that same technique and such is and diligence is needed in this commercial product.
I think these are all viable. I think they really are. If it boils down to who is your organization communicating with and developing a marketing plan to them.
4-H might be a contact and network. Somebody in 4-H might want to, maybe there's I know they have STEM projects and things like this. Maybe there's a simple woodworking or cabinetry making exercise they could do or something, just to, what I'm saying? Not that we'd have to come up with it or something like that, but just.
Yeah.
No, that would be a good one. I judged 4-H woodworking at the fair for years, and that is one of their larger categories. I mean, they've got lots of kids interested in that.
I'm city boy. I don't know much about 4-H.
Yeah, Horton might be a good contact. Bob Horton, who's the head of is he head of 4-H or what's the deal?
Well, I think he's retired now. But
oh well, okay. There's only 3 H's now. It's gone from 4 H's to 3.
No more.
Okay.
But he still keeps his hand in, and I keep his address handy.
He would know who to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a possibility.
Sure.
He might be interested in this video.
Yeah. I think there are definitely avenues and opportunities for the industry as a whole in Ohio. I've seen it in other states, and when we get off this call, I'll send you some of the links that I found for national organizations. Maybe there's a way to let high schools know that there are these other opportunities, even if they don't want to open up a shop class. They don't want the liability. At least if we can put something in their hands that they can take to their students who, that there's just that student who doesn't sit in a desk and doesn't want to, work behind a desk when they get older and doesn't want to go to school.
Right.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be useful information to have, because in every issue of the newsletter, we're always sticking websites and association names in there that folks can contact and get information for their kids or pick up videos or those sorts of things. So yeah, that would be valuable to have.
I think the opportunity is great for resurgence in these skilled trades. There's always got to be somebody to make this stuff and make it well. And so I think there will always be opportunity, and it's just not like it was, and it's never going to be like that again. And so it takes a new mindset to figure out how to get people interested.
Any last thoughts? Anybody? Last comments or ideas?
Sure, going through a mess of topics.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean,
and swapped a lot of good
that's what
stuff.
this is about. It was to get it open and discuss things. And
the wheels been cranking.
Yeah, great. That's great.
There's a lot to learn within the industry and without it.
Well, Tom, thanks for your time. It's been great talk from the short time I talked to you, but I know these guys got a lot out of it. So that's great. Appreciate your time, and we'll try to make the connections and see what we can bring up.
Well, thank you for providing a forum to discuss this. I think it needs further discussion, and it sounds like you guys are on the right path. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? We done?
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Thanks for listening, everybody.